I got taken away by a bloke named Les Pennell. He was the welfare officer or native affairs officer then. And we walked out of there and I seen smoke signals coming up behind. I knew it was the old man trying to get me back, so I took off and he was too good for me. He caught me again and ended up getting me back on the boat and we ended up at Rope River.
How old were you then?
5.
Wow. What memories do you have of that back then, that incident?
Oh, not really. I haven't got too much memory, but I remember trying to run away. Then I got to Rope River, then they took me to Catherine, and Catherine to Darwin, and 2 days in Darwin at Redder Dixon, and on to the Arrowetta and out to Croke Island. That is it.
So did you go to school on Croker Island?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, we learned a bit. We started writing in slates and in the back of a jungle there. It was good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, you had a bit of education.
Mm-hmm.
Better than most at that time.
Yeah, I imagine, looking back on that, you're fortunate that you did have that education.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the best thing about it. Like, you learn how to respect other people, be clean. If you didn't have a shower on the island, you got a flogging. So you made sure to be clean, you know. It is good. It taught you respect, everything. Oh, you couldn't go bludgeon in them days. You were asked by a policeman in Darwin here. You went looking for work, and if you didn't have 1 shilling and threepence in your pocket, you'd be jailed for vagrancy. Yeah, 3 months. Not bad.
So you were quite persistent then, you were a hard worker back then.
Oh, shit, yeah. Oh, you learnt to be a hard worker because you couldn't go around bludgeon. You know, I watched my mob down there. They'll sit halfway between the shop and their house and they'll see their cousin or auntie or something. Hey, you, come over here. Give us $10. Oh, I got no smokes. What's that? Just existing, eh? That's not life. That's bullshit.
My father was working down the port. I think he was the only Aboriginal person allowed down the port at that time. We were lucky because he married a pretty successful white lady her father was very powerful at the port, so he was allowed to actually drink at the front bar, the only Aboriginal person, so he was a lucky one. So I remember, I don't remember those days, but my mum tells me the story where he used to hitchhike to work on a cold winter morning and not be picked up and walk most of the way to the port, a long, long way. So he was very driven from a young age, from the stories I'm told from my mother. So we moved to Alice Springs when I was 1 and started, I guess, the process of growing up and living a life under Sid and Sid Rusca. It was a wonderful time for me. What I remember is that being given a beautiful opportunity from them, always loved, and not seeing my father so often. He was just a very driven person, out of town working. I just remember that he was on machinery all the time.
Dad was always away working. I was born in Darwin. We moved straight to Berry Springs, which is about 130 kilometres out of Darwin, so it was a wonderful upbringing being in the bush. Every time we got a chance to see our father, he was always working, but I do have a vivid memory of Dad flying in one day unexpectedly in a helicopter. They've landed him in our backyard, so that being about a 5-year-old was pretty impressive, seeing my dad get landed in a helicopter.
It
was a rock star arrival, right? Like I said, we had a great upbringing. We had a family full of love. Dad taught us from a very early age that if you want something, you got to work for it. Nothing comes on a silver platter and handed to you. So we learned that as a young age, that you have to work hard for what you want.
We went out there and we lived in the camps and worked really, really hard to learn, I guess, the trade that was on offer, which was our father's ability to be able to teach Aboriginal people and people in general, but to learn how to operate machinery first before we went and put our hand up to be able to shoot our mouth up to try and teach. So we had to get that sort of skill under our belt first.
To train Indigenous people is something that you've got to step outside the boundaries, and it's not your normal regime of here's your paperwork, this is what you have to do and this is how you fill it out. You have to go the extra length for those type of people, and look, we get great joy in helping them read, write, learn how to do different skills, but then give them the skills required so they can benefit in future life, whether they leave our company and move on to another company, a bigger company, which has happened on numerous occasions. Look, we just want to get the foundations right, so then they've got a building block that they can build from and a good foundation.